The RPA Today Show, hosted by Rob Howes and Wilton Rogers. The show that brings you the latest insights on RPA, robotic process automation, and how it's impacting every industry, as well as interviews with companies that are currently winning big with this technology. You'll also hear from other industry leaders and experts who will be sharing some of their success secrets to help you become more productive and to grow your business. The show is brought to you by Simply Automate, where we help you get more done in less time and more ease for your mind with strategic business automation. Learn more at www.simplyautomateinc.com, and please follow us on LinkedIn. If anything in this show resonates with you, please let us know by leaving a review. The RPA Today Show, where you just might learn something you didn't know. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the RPA Show, the show where you just might learn something you didn't know, which is a good thing. I'm your host, Rob Howes, my co-host, Wilton Rogers, the automation guy, who can also help you learn something you didn't know. Did you know that a digital employee can turn your 4-hour workday into 10 minutes? Hey, I bet you didn't. The automation guy did. That was a phenomenal post today too, man. When I saw that post, I said, wow, 4 hours, 10 minutes? Yeah. I said, that's an ad right there. That's the post.
You did say that. Because we did it. So, I was like, hey, we took 4 hours away from in 10 minutes. We got to post that. So, yeah.
And so it's all about efficiency, man. We got a guy with us here today who knows a little bit about efficiency himself.
A little bit.
Yeah. We got Mr. Gary Wood, who's helped actually people get out of the woods. All right. and out from underneath the dust. Gary, welcome to the show. And we're glad to have you here.
Well, Rob, I'm honored to be here. I really am. Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, we couldn't turn away a 30-year professional in the industry. I mean, because there's so much information that I know, experiences that you have had, and trials and successes and failures that have all turned into wisdom. So 30-year professional focusing on manufacturing systems, working with manufacturing executives on their digital transformation journey. Gary's focus is your supply chain. So Gary, first of all, why don't you just kind of share with us, why, what got you involved in this supply chain stuff anyway? Because that's it's an interesting space. What got you started in that?
Well, I actually started out many years ago as an inventory clerk, and we kept track of the inventory on our on paper, and we wrote down all of the transactions, and at the end of the month, we balanced what we had on inventory, and we placed our purchase orders. So those were the days, okay?
Uh-huh.
And one day, the accountant came through and said, hey, we've upgraded our computer system. Those were when the computer systems were small. And he said, we've got enough room. We want to put the inventory on the computer. And the other two inventory clerks that I was working with said, we don't want to have anything to do with a computer, and I volunteered. First mistake, I guess, huh? I should have learned, okay, you don't volunteer, So, but anyway, I volunteered. We got the inventory up on the computer. It took us about 4 months to get everything organized and all the rest of that. And they made me inventory manager. So I kind of I kind of grew up in the business, having successful, promotions and trying different things, and working in selling MRP software when MRP was big, working for major manufacturing companies, and eventually got involved with some ERP organizations. And you might recognize the name Oracle. and spent 3 years with Oracle implementing major ERP systems. And I've kind of, had an experience that's given me a lot of opportunity to work at different levels in a manufacturing company, levels, beginning right at the process. I worked with a system or managed a system, I didn't put it in, for U.S. Steel that managed the casting, the continuing casting at their number 2 caster in Gary Works in Indiana. Now, they cast steel, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And they would bring ladles full of molten steel into the casting house, and it was in that container was 25 tons of molten steel.
Wow.
It was 3 stories high, and they would drop it down through a mold, and at the ground floor, they would do a 90-degree turn and run it out on what they called a run-out table, which was like 300 feet long. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. So, and that continuous ribbon of steel came out of that caster until they finished that particular batch that they were pouring and everything like that. Phenomenal kind of automation, process control, all the rest of that. And then they would cut that ribbon with torches because it was still like 1,100, 1,200 degrees. Okay. They would cut that ribbon and take those slabs over to the slab yard outside of the hot strip mill, where they took that 18-inch thick, 2 feet wide, 12 feet long slab and turned it into a 5,000-foot coil of steel that was like a 1/4 inch thick that they would make car bodies out of or refrigerators or whatever. Okay. It's an amazing process. So anyway, from that to watching how they make tomato basil pasta sauce, and put it into jars, and you see it on your shelf, and all the rest of that. So, I've had a long, a range of experience in different industries. I've had a range of experience from process control and automation to ERP systems to, warehouse management systems to quality systems. It's just been a real joy to have the opportunity to experience all of this different kind of manufacturing, if you will.
Yeah. Big
companies, small companies, doesn't matter the size. And I think you mentioned, Rob, in your introduction that believe me, in my career, I've made more than one mistake. In fact, it would take a computer to track all of the mistakes that I've made. But anyway, learning from those mistakes, doing things and trying things, and then learning from those, efforts, whether they're successful or they're not, there's still learning that goes on. And I think that's part of my purpose, if you will, is being able to share some of that learning that I've had with people that may be facing similar challenges as to what I've been through in the past and what have you. I don't know everything. Yeah. I do have some, kind of rules that I follow and all the rest of that. But one, I like to think of myself as a good listener. I want to hear from you. Mm-hmm. Okay. My clients. Okay. Right. What are the things where are the challenges? Where are the successes? Yep. Where do you feel the most pain? Where are the things that you have the most questions about and things like that? All as it surrounds this manufacturing environment, if you will, and particularly now in this era where people are moving, they're in this digital transformation, moving from paper-based systems into digital-based systems, being able to improve their processes, and being able to develop the agility that they need in today's market, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that are happening that you don't plan for. You've got to be agile.
You have to be agile. You have to be flexible. Cannot be rigid or you will break. Flexibility allows you to bend.
Yes.
And speaking of flexibility, what would you say? So right now, what would you say, the biggest problem you help people solve, Gary? And what would you say the biggest problem you help people solve?
They don't know how to get from where they are to where they want to go.
And these are manufacturing companies.
These are manufacturing companies. Okay. So they have a feel that, we need to do something, the cloud's out there. I don't know everything. What is it with the cloud? Is it safe? Is it secure? What does it mean to what I've already done? Can I use it? There's a whole bunch of questions there that manufacturing executives really, they don't understand. And their IT group, not to, offend the IT group, but the IT group really is not focused on business solutions as much as they are focused on technology solutions and the IT of things, if you will.
100%.
And being able to be that liaison between the IT group and the business, okay, and being able to translate business issues to the IT folks so that they understand why why it happens in a certain way and what are the important things and why there are these kinds of questions. And then being able to take the technology, the IT technology and everything and going to the business group and saying, okay, this is what it means. Python isn't going to bite you. Okay. You know what I mean? And but it is something that behind the scenes, Mr. Executive, okay, Mr. CEO, behind the scenes, this is a key tool that your IT people need to be employing in your digital transformation, because that's where you're going to be able to get some of the data and, convert that data into actionable information, if you will. You can grab all of this. First of all, you have to be able to grab all of the data off of the processes, okay, that you're creating thousands of data points every day. Get that off of the process and into some sort of format that your business systems can understand.
Yep.
So if you're pumping olive oil out of the olive oil tank when you make tomato basil pasta sauce, you want to capture all of that pumping out of the olive oil tank. You want to keep track of how much you took out of the olive oil tank, what the level of the inventory in the tank is. You want to know how much you put into that batch of tomato basil pasta sauce so that you can cost that particular batch. You want to be able to say, hey, we moved it out of tank number 1 and we put it into kettle number 4. Okay. And that getting that information out of the system is, as we used to say, duck soup. Okay. It's there, but you've got to do some work to get it out of the data historian into the ERP system.
Yep.
Those are the kinds of things that really help manufacturing companies. In this case, that's a real example. That manufacturing increased their inventory accuracy from 80% to 97%.
Say that again.
They improved their inventory accuracy from 80%, okay, to 97%.
I wonder what the ROI calculator. I wonder what that is.
So let me give you let me expand on that. All right. So when they made a change in their schedule, okay, every change they made in the schedule cost them $20,000. One change cost $20,000. In their key plant, they ran from 6 o'clock Monday morning till noon Saturday, continuously. Their customers, because they were primarily a contract manufacturer. In other words, they were making things for other people. So they made all of Heinz Classico pasta sauces. They made all of Paul Newman's own pasta sauces and Paul Newman's own salsas. Okay, so they were making for all of Barilla's pasta sauce in the U.S. They made all of it. Okay, so they were making for other people, and when they made a pasta sauce, a tomato basil for Barilla, they made it once a month. Okay. And, to schedule that around and all the rest of that, take in a mistake or add another kettle or whatever, if they found out they didn't have enough basil, okay, that cost them $20,000. I mean, it really, because they had to bump somebody, they had to, they had a minimum of a 5 kettle order. A kettle had 5,000 pounds. So a minimum order was 25,000 pounds of sauce. Wow. Okay. So because of the process loss and everything. So,
man,
so all of a sudden now you make one change a month. That's $250,000. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And if you can automate those changes, Wilton.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, and the ROI on it is, in the case of this particular client, I'm the ROI was, like 3 months, because it costs money to develop, right. the applet, a little application that converted the data from the data historian in their MES system. Okay, that kept track of the tanks, pumped the olive oil out of the tank into the cook kettle, all the rest of that kind of stuff. It was about 50, I think it was 55,000 or whatever. Okay, it costs to do all of that development. Okay,
wow,
and get it implemented and all the rest of that stuff. But if you save 3 months, you've got $60,000 that you've saved.
Right.
Okay, I mean it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was something that they had all of the tools there. They just needed somebody that had that experience, okay, that understood that they had the data. I knew they had the data, okay, and I knew what their ERP system was looking for. So it was just a matter of sitting down with the technical folks and saying, hey, we need to take this data in this format, convert it over to this data in this format, and load it into the ERP system.
Yep.
All behind the scenes. Nobody had to write anything down. Yep. Nobody entered it into a computer, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Well, all of a sudden now, their inventory accuracy goes up. Not only does it save them money, okay, because, some of this stuff is got a product life to it. You can't use, you can't keep basil around for 2 or 3 years. Okay. That kind of thing. So not only that, but you don't have waste. You don't have to bump people out of the schedule. You don't have to reschedule. If you're running 24 hours a day, for 5.5 days or 6 days, you can't, you can't bump anybody, if you know what I mean. You don't have a lot of room there to do things. So,
I found out like the manufacturing industry, because we work in the manufacturing industry. You're right. They're so, call them dinosaurs, right? They're dinosaurs.
Oh, yes.
The information that they have is so old and they don't want to change. The IT teams do not want to change. They've been there. They're stuck on their ways. They know how to sort of run everything. It's like, wait a minute. No, you don't. It was important. It was important that you just brought up your experience. You keep seeing experience, and people don't understand how important that is, because, I mean, gosh, you've been out with this 35 years, whatever you say, you've been out this for a very long time. working in the industry, but also understanding technology and how to use that. So you're 35 plus years and your hundreds and thousands of conversation is always going to be beneficial to someone that has already even been in the game for 15 years and had thousands of conversations, right? Because they're stuck on operational. You're where you're as bringing in like, okay, you're operational, everything's up and running. I can show you how to use everything that you have without changing the thing because I understand your industry. I've been through your industry. I understand it. I know the pain points. I know if I fix this is going to happen here. Yep. So once that happens, you're going to thank me. So I think it's so important that people understand that when you find someone that has experience but understands technology, especially digital transformation for any business, but most importantly for a niche like you in the manufacturing industry, people need to be all over that because, like you said, if it wasn't for you for that change that you made, for the inventory, that little change saves, over a period of, the years to come is going to save them millions.
Yeah, absolutely millions. This is a company that did 700 million a year. Okay. And typically, your supply chain, inventory, and in their case, as a food manufacturer, it's even higher, is 50, 60% of your spend is the inventory that you're buying. And if you can't get that right, that's a huge
major,
it's a huge problem. Okay. Yeah. It has an impact all the way through the company. So the simple fact, and your quality suffers, not only the finances and your profit and all the rest of that, but your quality suffers, your workforce, because you're putting them under pressure that, we've got to figure out how we've got to solve this scheduling issue now to get that, 10th or 9th or 10th kettle of tomato basil out now. We don't have basil. They used to, if they would get to the point where they had a 10 kettle order, and they got to the 10th kettle and there's no basil in the tote, what do you do now? I've got 2,500 pounds or maybe 3,500 pounds of tomatoes in that kettle. I can't just dump it down the drain. So they grab the supervisors that all jump in cars and go over to Wegmans, and buy up all the basil, those little 4-ounce cans of basil. They go over and buy all the basil they could get to take it back and hope it was, it was compatible with the spec for that particular customer and everything. And they could get the 3 pounds that they needed to get into that last kettle. It just, and it's just an example. I've seen it, in many cases. Discrete manufacturers, a little bit different than process. Process manufacturers make stuff. Discrete manufacturers make things. So we did, So we did and this is kind of a process and a discrete. Heinz ketchup, the Heinz bottle of ketchup and everything like that. We did an inspection. I did an inspection system for them. So what they were doing is that they were looking at the height of the ketchup in the bottle. You look at the top and everything like that. Sometimes it was higher, sometimes it was lower. Well, they had a standard. We had set up a camera to look at how high the ketchup was in that neck. And if it was too high, they wanted to decrease the amount of ketchup that they would go to their filler and adjust the filler if it started going too high. If it was too low, people wouldn't buy it and they couldn't ship it. Because it would be, you'd put it on the shelf and there'd be one high, people would buy that one because they're safe, but if it was too low, it would just sit there and eventually it wouldn't sell. So what they did is that they wanted to make sure that that bottle, as it was coming on down the line, that it was within a range. So this camera looked at it, and if it was too high, it kicked it off. If it was too low, it kicked it off, of the thing. So, that's another example of how you can automate things. This is, automating for repetitive process and everything. It took care of that. I didn't have to have a person look at that bottle or those bottles because they're going 300, units a minute. Okay. Right. I didn't have to have anybody look at that. Okay. So I saved the body there. I'm still making sure that my product is good. Okay. That I'm going to get people to buy it. Now, Heinz eventually figured out, okay, if I put a label around the top of that neck, okay, that's like an inch high, I don't have to worry about that. I can save some money, okay? So now you look at a Heinz bottle of ketchup, a clear Heinz bottle. They did two other things. So you look at a clear Heinz bottle of ketchup, that label, okay, on the top covers any fluctuation in the height, okay? Number one. The other thing that we looked at was the color of the ketchup. So Heinz had what they called Heinz Red, was the color that they wanted the ketchup. If it was too light, that meant there was too much water in the ketchup, and they needed to make an adjustment. If it was too dark, that meant there was too much tomato paste, and it was costing them money. Okay, so it would go along, and we would look at the Heinz color, okay, to make sure that it was the right color. And if it wasn't, then they could make some adjustments into the, all of that being done at 300 units a minute.
300 units a minute.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really fascinating. Give us your best piece of business advice.
Ooh, best piece of business advice? Number one, go slow. Number two, simple is better than complex. Number three, use Wood's rule. And number four, have a roadmap.
No,
like that.
Well, like that. Then that's true. I think it's perfect, man. I mean, that when you put that in order, and then obviously from your experience, you've probably a professional at it now in that order. But I think it's important for people to understand that when you make something that simple and you put it into practice, it works.
Yes.
It works. Like it does. I mean, it's easy to say. It's obviously it's harder to do, but when you do it and you're consistent about it, it works 100% of the time.
Think about this. It's not rocket science. It's blocking and tackling. It really is. That doesn't mean you can't use technology. Okay. I mean, technology is good, but you have to understand how to apply it. Okay. And if it's, you're not going to play golf with a baseball bat or baseball with a golf club. Okay. There are right tools for the right moment.
Yep.
And you have to understand which is the best tool. Okay. And how to apply that tool. Okay. And the swing in a baseball bat for baseball is different than the swing for golf. They're both swings. Okay. But they're different. Okay. And so
I like that.
It really is. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things when we're trying to do this. All those silver bullets out there, I call them, of all these new software systems and technologies and all the rest of that stuff is, it's here. And then people find out, well, gee, either they can't understand it or it's too expensive or it's too complex or they forgot to tell the users or they forgot to include the users, whatever.
Right.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good advice. Good advice. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you, Gary?
Well, two ways. One is you can visit our website at supplychainanalyticsllc.com. Okay. Or you can send me an email at gwood@supplychainanalytics.net.
Perfect.
And you can find me on LinkedIn.
There you go. LinkedIn's always is a good place to follow him.
Boy, it sure is.
A lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. We're all in the digital transformation space, all of us. I don't care who you are, you're in it. So you need to understand how to take advantage of it and start having conversations. We have a gentleman right here, Gary Wood, has decades of experience that can at least put you in the right direction in conversations. So reach out to him. We'll leave all his information in the body of this podcast, wherever you're listening to it on audio or video, it'll be there. And continue following us, subscribe to us, make sure that you reach out to us. If you have any questions or have any ideas about a show, reach out to us because we're all in. But Gary, man, thanks for bringing your wisdom, your experience, your knowledge. Man, it's been great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thank you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah.
Listen, I'm always up for a learning session. I'm always up for getting, around some individuals who I can grow from and learn some new insight from. And I'll tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, it can take you 5, 10, 15 years to figure something out. Or you can get with somebody who has the years and experience and they can shorten your learning curve like you've never seen. Mm-hmm. Okay. So your goal is you don't got to pay money, but pay attention. Okay. Pay attention and it will pay you. Mm-hmm. You're listening to and watching the RPA Show where you just might learn something you didn't know. Until next time.